Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role-playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them. Hello, weirdos! Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, where we get to talk to the weird and wonderful creators behind the games we love. My name is Diogo Nogueira, and today we're going to hear a great chat ahead with Gabriel Quiroga from Argentina. He's a fellow Latin American game designer. We talked about many great things. He's the author of Neurocity, Warplane and Hell Night. He's really interested in horror. We talk about horror movies, horror games he's really into. We talked about how he thinks relaxation and being and not doing anything for creators and for artists, how that's is important. We talked about this weird thing that happens in Argentina, how they have witch doctors and how this is part of their culture, and how he learns to how it works for them. And we talked about many other things, like how his work dialogues with many kinds of art, how he believes that every time you add a new medium to a work, like you're making a game with art, with music, with fiction, how each one amplifies the other and one things become greater and greater. And we talked about many other things, had a great time, a really wonderful chat, and I'm sure we will love it as much as we did. So let's get weird with Gabriel Quiroga. Hey, Gabriel, thank you so much for coming here. So, first of all, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Diogo. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, well, it's so great to have you here. I've been following your work. I mean, Warplane and Hell Nights are such incredible piece of gaming and art, and I'm so excited to have you here. And first thing I want to ask you, it's I do with everybody that comes here. Not only maybe some listeners don't know who you are, but I really like to hear from the creators I invite here for them to introduce themselves, say who they are, what they do, and if they can, share one small weird detail about yourself, a habit, uh, the weird way you drink coffee, or like you drink mate, or something like
In
the
my
way,
case.
yeah, your routine or something about yourself.
Okay, Diogo. I'm a game designer and a writer. I published Neurocity, Warpland, and Hell Night so far. I have also produced a few card games. I do not have a set routine or daily routine. I mainly just go with the flow and try to follow my inspiration and my creativity uh, to where it goes. I'm a big fan of RPGs, as you as well, and I get together every Friday to play test my own games, basically for many years so far. So I started as an amateur player and eventually evolved into a professional one. But I have always been playing my own games.
No, great. And can you share a small detail about yourself or habits, and the way you do coffee or mate, uh, any morning ritual, or the way you choose your clothes or anything like this?
Uh, I think I like to drink a lot of mate. I also drink coffee. I also drink tea. I like alcohol as well. I smoke sometimes cannabis, but only socially with friends. Yes, sometimes when I play also as well, as a GM or a player, I think it helps me relax a lot.
Yeah.
And um, no, my habits are pretty relaxed. I think that relaxation is a key aspect of creation. So I think that I always try to bring the tension down in every moment. I think that it's always helpful to resolve problems and to allow myself to follow my own intuition.
Interesting. So you link recreation with relaxation, and in a
Mhm.
time like a lot of us feel like we're not producing enough, like we're all always like demanding so much for ourselves. How do you relate this relaxation with creation, and how that helped you be the creator you are and produce the work you produced?
Mm. Uh, well, I think that that small tip about relaxation, I learned it when I studied drama. I went to a drama school as well. Um, and they always made an emphasis on being relaxed because if you're relaxed, you act more naturally and things flow much more easily. So I think that that's a very, very important aspect. And I think that one of the main issues, main problems is trying to have that balance between what is art and what is the creation process against what is the production process and being within an economic system and being, as you said, productive so you can sell and so you can live from your own work. That's my case. I'm happy and very glad or very lucky to be able to live from what I love doing. But it's difficult to strike that balance because you're always rushing, and you also have like a clock for everything, right?
Yeah, and all the demands and people wanting new stuff from you. I'm sure, as it happens with other creators. Oh, when are releasing more stuff? Or what are you doing? And all these projects and other people wanting to work with you. Uh, I know I feel like this some days, and I suffer from anxiety, so I can imagine that. So, what do you do for relaxing? What do you like to do for relaxing?
Mm. I think that um, when I'm following what I love to do, when I'm following what uh, piques my interest, for example, watching a movie or listening to music, uh, I think that I get into that mind state where I feel very relaxed, and I think that that's one of the issues because maybe, for example, when I created Warplan, people started asking for supplements for Warplan, but I immediately was fascinated by the concept of Hell Night, so I just had to go with that. And I think that it's sometimes important to just go to where your heart is. And there will be a supplement for Warblam. I have already written it. I have a pile of notes for each setting, but I need to work on a schedule, and I need to give priorities and start trying to organize myself in more or less a coherent way. And for relaxing, yeah, I think that your space, your personal space is very important for a creator. I mean, your own place where you can create and relax, maybe have a free time away from the family sometimes. I also have a kid, a daughter, a 1 year old daughter. And I think you also have kids, right?
Yeah, I have a 8-year-old kid. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, so also the same thing. Um,
Yeah, I
I
see
think that
very
you can.
similarities as what you're saying, like how I feel about many things. So that's why I'm asking to see. I don't know, get to know you and see how we relate to those
Mm,
things. I think that
yeah,
time
yeah.
away and time for being yourself, away from your family, away from, like, if I have a day job, and give time for you to flourish and discover who you are and what your interests are very very important too for an artist, for sure.
It's very difficult, and it's very important to have a space and take your time away. And sometimes it is very difficult to quantify that amount of time you spend doing nothing, or maybe
Yeah.
just spending doing something that eventually does not work. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you may say, okay, I did not do anything, but in fact, maybe you worked on 3 or 4 ideas that maybe they did not become anything, but eventually they will grow into becoming something else. and it's a very long process that requires a lot of time and a lot of space and concentration. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, we all hear about this, like the time to do nothing. How creatives need times to sometimes just to stare at the wall or something like this. Did you ever did any of those exercises, like to just try as much to do nothing to see if some idea would come up, as you're talking about this space, this kind of isolation for creative pursuits? Did you ever experiment with this kind of isolations for creating something, like in complete silence or staring at a
Uh,
wall or something like this?
um, I think that I'm always running behind a concept that is deeply interesting for me. So I don't usually have the problem of not having ideas. I have the problem of not being able to formulate that ideas into products that are maybe readable or gameable or playable or whatever. So, and I think that at some point, what I do usually overlaps many things because it's not just a game book, it's also an art book, and it's also maybe literature, and it's also maybe an essay or a particular subject I'm interested in. And I think that many things are moving towards that concept of overlapping and of being many things at the same time. For example, well, I made an album for each book, and there are a lot of artists that communicate the same concept through many different, from their own media and from their own technique and from their own lens. So I think that if you if you're in touch with what you love and with what it moves you. It's very easy, but I think that the main difficulty is fighting against all that machinery that engulfs you into being work and to paying debts or paying stuff and being a family
The
man.
routine, you know, yeah.
Yeah, the routine I think is very difficult to cope with
Yeah,
for
that's
every
true.
creator, man. It's part of our life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know I have problems dealing with that, and I'm really grateful for you to be working with games like full time. That's must be a really great feeling, but sometimes kind of scares me, like the pressure of, oh, that's all I got, you know. But
Yeah, of
Gabriel,
course, the pressure of money and the pressure of
yeah,
responsibility. For example, well,
yeah,
my daughter wakes up at 3 a.m. in the morning many times, and maybe I
yeah,
go to bed at 1 because I like to write at night. So all my times are like fucked up, and it becomes very difficult. Yeah, it's
yeah. But I mean, at least like all the work you
I'm sure.
do has just this meaning, so meaningful to you probably, because I mean, my day job has like no meaning to me. Like I have to work really hard to find something to like to keep my sanity there, you know. But uh yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. I used to work on a leather export company for shoes. For Doc Martens. I worked,
yeah,
and yeah, I felt that it was very difficult for me because I like daydream a lot. So it was always like I have half of my mind, my concentration divided.
yeah,
That was what happened to me.
yeah,
That is what happens when your interest is divided against your responsibility. What you must do between what you want to do.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So Gabriel, uh here in the podcast, we always like to talk about the weird, and we associate the weird with the wonderful, with wonderment. And but I would like to hear from you. Uh, how do you define the weird, and what's in the weird interests you in your work, in your life, in the things you pursue?
The weird. Well, I think that at the moment I am very, maybe it's a personal side note, but for example, in my where I live, that's pretty much south of Buenos Aires, 1 hour from downtown. Um, Most of us, at least our family, our culture, we all of us have many many superstitions and many like healers or people that we seek whenever we have an issue or a problem, for example. For example, my daughter has three healers, three different healers for three different type of problems, health issues, really. And that's very normal for me. Like, oh, she has evil eye. Okay, we have to call that this friend that cures the evil eye, or other ailments that have an Argentine word, for example, el empacho. And a good friend of mine cures el empacho. And I think that's very funny because to explain that maybe to a foreigner, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? But in here it's like very ordinary. It has happened even to us that we take one family member to a doctor, and maybe the doctor will even say, "Oh no, this has to be healed by this witch doctor," for example.
Oh yeah,
To me,
wow.
yeah, to me, it's incredible because it's like it's so cultural and it's so daily that we do not even think about that. It's like it's not even magic, you know. It's like a part of our daily life.
Interesting. And then do the governments because here in Brazil at least we have like the regional administrative of medicine, and then do they have
Mhm.
any kind of regulatory like agency for witch doctors or healers or anything uh like this, or no?
Hmm.
Anyone
No, no, no.
can be a
It's
healer,
very.
or how does a
I
person become a healer in this way there?
and there is like a procedure where you like give that ability or power to someone you have some degree of confidence or of trust. But other than that, it's absolutely informal and casual. But it's very normal for people to maybe travel some distance to meet a special type of healer to heal a particular type of problem or issue. It's absolutely daily stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever been healed by a healer in
Oh yeah,
with
man.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have two friends, two personal friends that one of them dedicates absolutely full time to that, and the other one just do that as a service to the community without any uh, money involved.
Could you share any of the treatments, what's involved, or is this like too personal? Or can
No,
you
no,
like
it's
examples or?
you usually just give your name and he will take some time to work it over and do his like ritual and he will solve it. But sometimes it involves like scissors with iron scissors or maybe pieces of string, candles. Well, I'm sure you are familiar with that. I think in Brazil it's also very popular, right? On some
Uh,
areas.
I
At
mean,
least
not like,
I have a
yeah.
few.
I probably not as you said, like doctors recommending you to go there. But yeah,
Mhm,
we also have this. What I was asking is like, do you have they use herbs? Do they use candles? They use like
mhm,
oils or chanting, music,
mhm,
or things like this.
mhm.
That
Yeah.
was just curious to see, what
Yes.
how that
Well,
happens and stuff.
it overlaps a lot with many things like astrology and tarot. I'm also a tarot reader, so I use sometimes tarot to help me out with some problems or some creative difficulties. I think that archetypes are very interesting to think about and to
Yeah,
understand and to use them for stories or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it
They
works.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They help us think and organize our thoughts too and understand,
Mhm.
like tools for
Yes.
understanding, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Joseph Campbell, I read a couple of his books, and he always talks about that, right? About the arch of the hero and all the
yeah,
archetypes and all the characters he must meet and the challenges he must
yeah, yeah,
overcome.
yeah. And even if we're subverting these archetypes, these rules of narrative or anything, understanding them will help us break them in more interesting ways. I think so.
Of course, yeah.
Gabriel,
Everything is interesting, whether it is a lie or whether it is true. Or
yeah,
maybe every truth has a bit of a lie within it, and every lie has a bit of truth within it. I think everything is worth analyzing at least, or can be
yeah.
used for a good purpose.
That's a great way to look this, and I find it a lot of us like game designers have this look because I find it's extremely a way of looking into things as a designer because we analyze parts, we see what works, what doesn't, how we could exchange or mix it up, and I think
Mhm.
that's why we always like making new games, like we're. I'm sure like we are fascinated with Warplane as I am with other games, but sometimes we just make a game, want to make more stuff for it, but we just hooked by this idea of a new game and he went to like Hell Night and we just have to do it. And I think that's how it feels sometimes, and just going for this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Well, if you look at it, I know reality has its own laws and its own mechanics. So maybe when you are developing a game, you're working like a projection, very small, minimal projection of reality, and it also works as its own thing. It has to work as its own thing. But I think that it's a very important thing for a game designer not to uh, get too obsessed with complicated mechanics or systems. Personally, I just develop one system and I stick to it, and I try to develop different settings that maybe provide some tweaking of the same system, but I don't like to pretend that the reader is going to learn a new system every time they read a new book from me. It's too much uh, of uh, of work of a work because in the end I know very well that most RPG players use their own favorite systems. So
Yeah, that's
many of
true.
them just like to use settings and use their own system for this new setting.
Yeah. When you're creating these games, do you have this image of the of your reader as you mentioned? I don't think the reader will learn a new game, or do you like mainly design it for yourself and that's the kind of systems you want to play, or not like trying to experiment too much, or you yourself would like to experiment more but you avoid uh, many new stuff because of the reader?
I think that my main criteria for that is that I try to worry what works for me. For example, I hate learning new systems. That's my reality. I don't think I have learned a new system for a long while. I struggle too much doing it, so I try not to do that. And
Perfect. Yeah,
it's very important to have a playtesting group and to see if the people can get the hang of it quickly. I am blessed with having a very large playtesting group, and many people are constantly coming that are not from the RPG community. So they are like, they have never played a game in their life. And I need to teach them how to play an RPG in like 15 minutes. And they can get the hang of it if the system is very easy and most of the effort is concentrated on the story and on the character.
yeah, makes sense. So, Gabriel, when you're working on a project or creating something, do you have any kind of creative habits, like something you do before you start creating, or like do you listen to music? Do you wear like a funny hat or anything like this? Or like do you always
A funny
smoke
hat.
before you do something, or
I'm I am always writing. I am always writing. I write with my cell phone. I don't have
yeah,
I write so much that I do not have even the time to have a small book to write it. I am like 90% of the time doing it. And only 1% of everything I write ends up becoming something. So yeah, I don't have a habit. It's not like I sit to write. Maybe I sit to write once the project is financed. But at that stage, it's like I have the whole setting written down in a very big pile of notes. The system is pretty much done, and the game is super play tested, like 25 or 30 sessions in.
Nice.
So yeah.
So you said you
Sometimes,
write like
sometimes I need to walk. Sometimes I need to walk with my dog. Maybe smoke a cigarette, go away, have a beer with some friends, and relax a bit. But even when I'm having a beer with my friends, maybe I say, okay, hold on a second, and I go out for 10 minutes and write, finish, go back. I'm always doing that in bed. It's like a bit insufferable to be with me. I'm a
so
lousy partner, maybe.
I was like this a few years ago to like riding on the subway, like on a boring meeting, like in a family party or something. So you always carry your phone. Do you write on Google Docs or you write on notebook and then you write on your computer? What where do you do your writing as you're writing all the time? That's the
No,
question.
to be honest, I'm very primitive. I just use my notes. It's like,
Okay.
for example, for Meltdown, this is
I
all
see.
I have so
Yeah,
far
yeah.
for now. You say, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going,
Yeah, yeah,
keeps going, man, keeps going. Okay?
yeah.
It's almost 50 pages in a note, and,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
that beside what I have in the computer.
Cool. Yeah. So you're always
Meltdown will be my
you're
new setting, my
or
new big setting.
yeah, you're with hands on your work. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
I try to use a few apps, writing apps, but they were a bit like complicated and did not felt smooth enough. I just always go for the simple angle of things, because as soon as something becomes a bit complicated, I just like, okay, let's go
yeah,
simple, because everything eventually becomes complicated by itself. So I try to not complicate it. I leave
sure.
it to complicate it naturally.
You mentioned being like an insufferable partner. Do your partner complains that you're always like writing something like in the
Yeah,
moments you
yes.
like you're having dinner and they're like talking and then you grab your phone and write something? Did that ever
Yeah.
become an issue to you?
And it becomes maybe something funny, because it's like constantly happening, and the people that are around me are used to it. But sometimes I'm talking, and maybe they look at my eyes, and you're not listening to me, right? You're just writing something in your head. Yeah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's something that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I especially when I'm in middle of doing something or like I'm having this idea, I'm writing a game or just creating something. Sometimes, yeah, just people are speaking to you and you're in that world or like, oh, maybe if I do this with this rule and or if I do this with this NPC, they will clash with this faction. And they're talking about their lives, and then and I have to train myself. Oh, come back. Wait a minute, just take this note and then I will listen everything. I'm sorry, but yeah,
Yes, absolutely. It's our burden.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes when one thing piques your interest, you start doing some research about it, and that research takes you to another place. I think that's very good, because you're constantly learning new stuff, and learning maybe a bit of history, or maybe learning how some things work.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
for
I
sure.
like reading a lot, and yeah, it's what makes me tick.
Yeah, would you say you do more search than research? Like you're always like looking for things you are interested in, not necessarily related to a game you're making. You just oh, I find this subject interesting, so I'm gonna read about it. I'm watching the documentary, and then sometime later, this may or may not generate an idea for a game or a piece of art or anything that you do.
I do both. I think that I compare it to like fishing, to me it's like I throwing some bait with a hook and see what happens with this idea and with this concept, and let's see where this concept takes me. And yeah, I think it's great. Also, a lot of research and reading about my colleagues, other RPG creators such as yourself. I'm always digging new stuff and and checking out how they do things and how they solve problems. It's very interesting. I'm always digging up and finding inspiration in the community.
Very nice. Yeah, I love doing this. I always learn from other creators. I'm always try to say this too. But you said about researching. What subjects have you been researching lately that piqued your interest, and you're like thinking about doing something with it?
Well, for example, these last days, I have been very interested in two art. Well, I'm a very big fan of Delta Green, the Call of Tulu. Not sure about the pronunciation. RPG game. Are you familiar with
Yeah,
it? Delta Green.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm a super big fan of Delta Green. It's amazing. For me, it's one of the greatest RPG books. I love it. I also like a lot liminal horror. You know, also
Yes, it's great.
it's very very nice. So I was thinking of a way of trying to merge both of them together and doing something related to Hell Knight, and find if there was a way to develop it and produce it and portray it in a different way and provide something interesting, original, different. I think I have something that works, and for that I have to research all these books. I have also been watching David Lynch movies. I also watched yesterday. I watched what was the name of this movie? Um, well, I need to search for it, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
But yeah, all those liminal horror stuff that has to do with the rubber reality genre in Hollywood. That's from the 80s. I think Hellraiser and Freddy Krueger sort of started it, but it also developed into other stuff. Alan Parker, the director, also do a couple of very good stuff. The movie I watched yesterday is Donnie Darko. It's very, very well new movie. I recommend it. Watch it. And I like how it portrays a different aspect of reality and how the character eventually gets into that reality and all that paranormal stuff mixed up with conspiracy. I love it. I think I think it's a very good opportunity for role playing.
nice. We're certainly gonna come back to this topic about alternate realities, conspiracy, all this kind of metaphysical and weird stuff. But you also mentioned you research, yes, like other creators and RPG creators or anything. But I was going to ask, like, is there any kind of any creator? It can be an artist, it can be an RPG creator, it can be a musician, or any other kind of creator that really inspires you and helps you, and I don't know, inspires you to be the creator you are, and helps you find solutions to what you seek to do in your work.
Well, I
It could
think
be
that
from other media too. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I think that pretty much all of them, even your work, inspired me to go ahead and do my own stuff. Diogo,
Oh, thank you.
I speak so very sincerely, and also, I can think of, for example, William McCausland. He made the Mutant Epoch game
Yeah.
that was very interesting because he did everything. He wrote it and he produced it and he designed it and he
And
also
he
did
makes
the
a lot
art.
of
And
art for other games too. Yeah.
the amount of art and the amount of tables for everything he did is like it's borderline crazy, but it was very inspiring. I like it very much. And also there is a person called Aleph Null. Aleph Null?
Aleph
Yeah.
New, yeah.
Yeah, Aleph Null.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love his work. He made Black Sun Death Scroll. I always talked about that game because to me it's like the proto Morgborg, you know, because it deals with an apocalypse and it deals with players uh, having to die at the end of the session. And what's interesting about the game is how they die and how they suffer that tragedy. And I think, and I thought it was very interesting and very original. I'm a good friend with him. Yeah, there are so many people that inspire me. Really, to be honest,
Yeah.
I try to really be as open as possible, and I'm constantly reading other people's stuff. I'm a very big consumer of
Yeah.
everything geek.
Yeah, there's this phrase from, I don't know if from Still Like an Artist or another book from Austin Kleon that I love, is that for you to be interesting, you have to be interested. You have to really be interested in the stuff that the community is making or the RPG stuff is making for you to be interested, because otherwise you will not be connected to all the wonderful stuff people are making. Like we can learn so much from one another, and sometimes it feels weird. Like sometimes people have no idea and just, I don't know, makes something
Uh,
like a D20 game and say, "Oh, I make this new great game," and then it's like, yeah, cool, yeah, but it's like all this other stuff, and they haven't even talked about to anyone in the community, and then sometimes they compare it to like a writer that doesn't read and wants everybody to read their game, read their books, and like, well,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think
yeah,
that happens also when I work with many artists on commission, and I always make sure that they are already interested in something similar to what I am doing. So in that way, I will pretty much know for sure that they will nail it because they love
yeah,
that stuff. So it's like it's a no-brainer. It will always work. You're not asking the guy to do something different or out of his comfort zone or of something that they do not really like. That's super important. And yeah, it also happens to me that if the game already exists, somebody has done it so effectively good, I will never try to compete against that or try to do something similar to that. I really need to work on something that I could add to that. For
yeah,
example, mothership. I couldn't think of a better concept to improve a mothership. To me, it's perfect, the concept. I love it. I'm a very big fan. I'm a very big sci-fi fan. I think the concept is perfect. I wouldn't add or take away anything from that.
for
That's my
sure,
personal
yeah,
opinion. But
yeah,
to be
of
honest, I do
course,
not like the system. I do not like the system, but everything else is perfect. But I have played Mothership with my own system. I love it. I own
yeah,
the Mothership
yeah.
books also.
Yeah, I do the same. Like I take all these bordership modules, which are fantastic. They're like so well made.
Mhm.
The structure, adventures, and I use like Screams Among the Stars, which kind of into the odd system. It's very straightforward. But yeah, I'm very curious to see Bordership First Edition, because I think they tackled some issues I had with the Zero Edition. But I haven't
Uh-huh,
yet
yeah.
because I'm waiting for like the physical books and stuff. But I'm very
Have
curious.
you
I
seen
love.
the? Is there a PDF for the new Mothership?
Yeah, the PDFs are out. If you're a backer,
Uh-huh.
you can download it. Uh, but I mainly only read physical books now. There's so many, and PDFs I get lost. So I'm waiting for
Yeah,
for the books. Uh,
I do not like reading PDFs. Also, I like physical books. Yeah.
yeah, I switched it to. I used to read a lot of PDFs, but because of the kids, I made a compromise to read physical books in front of him, for him to see I'm
Ah,
actually not in front of a device. I'm like getting this dead tree and actually reading it, and not like
yeah,
looking at Instagram or
that
anything like that.
that's a good idea to set an example. Actually, it
Yeah.
worked for me when I was a kid because my father is a big fan of comics. So I was very young, and he was always reading comics. So I just sat next to him and pretended I read comics with him. In the end, I eventually
Nice.
became a comic fan. But yeah, that absolutely works. I will use that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kids learn from imitation, right? I mean, I think all of us do, but that's something I
Mhm.
tried. My kids are not really into books. Like I tried comics. He's passionate about Minecraft though, so I'm trying to, I don't know, get a book about Minecraft to see if he's interested.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Gabriel,
It's difficult because, yeah,
yeah,
let me know. No, I was
uh,
going to say that it's very difficult because maybe the attention span has shortened a lot. So
oh
pretending to
yeah,
read like a big novel, it's quite a daunting stuff. Even myself, I have some difficulty sometimes to read novels.
yeah,
I used to read like, I don't know, at least 1, 2 novels a week. But nowadays I'm reading pretty much one a month, maybe one
yeah,
every 2 months. It demands a lot
and
of effort and concentration.
that's probably way more than when most of the people are like reading. Like my father is like completely addicted to short content. He just watches YouTube. He can't even watch Netflix anymore. He can just watch YouTube and like WhatsApp stuff. And that's something I really tell my kid, like, Pablo, the world is not Netflix. You can't just click on something and that thing happens.
Yes,
Like stuff
it's a
takes time.
problem.
Like
Yeah,
and like the best stuff takes like the most time normally. Like you need to apply and to build something to really make it worth it, you know. And but
absolutely.
it's a hard job to teach it to
It,
this new generation
it,
because they have so much stuff like in a click they can get. Like, remember when you wanted to watch a cartoon when you were a kid, or like when I was a kid, like cartoons were like in this time of the day, and now it's like anytime they want, if they are allowed to, they
yes,
can watch anything they want. So it's
yes, it's
it's hard
absolutely, yeah.
to teach them
And
moderation when everything's available all the time.
yeah, and you can also see that with movies as well. I think that the
Yeah,
concept of watching a long movie is also being a bit degrading and fading.
and even
Kids
the
are
long
not
movies,
as
like
used to that. Yeah,
the long movies now has to something happen all the time.
all the time.
Like
Yeah,
like the Hobbit trilogy. I'm sorry, but for me, it's like Fast and Furious in Middle Earth because it's all the time action all the time, and the book is not like that. The book has rhythm, and like it has calm times, and you can breathe. But in the movies, it was like, what the hell is going on? It's like every time it's action, 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 action. And it gets tiresome. At least for me, like I'm tired. Like my son sometimes wants to play so much Minecraft, and I can't, I can't watch these blocks anymore. I can't. I have to see something else.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think that there is no most creative artworks like to me. I think speaking out loud, I think that they switch narratively from relaxation to tension, and then
Yeah,
there is an explosion, and then there is a relaxation, and there's like
yeah.
this sine wave,
Rhythm.
and that,
Yeah,
yeah, but that does not happen. It's not happening. It's like all tension, 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 and explosive.
yeah,
It's constantly explosion, and then it's like nothingness. It's like
yeah.
it's not
You get
providing any
exhausted.
effect at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get exhausted. So Gabriel, you're going to release very soon Neurocity Corner Blind Edition. Can you tell a little bit about this new edition of Neurocity and what would be your favorite weird thing about this game?
Yeah, it's a new, updated, enhanced, and expanded edition of Neurocity. Neurocity was my first RPG. It's like a mix between Paranoia, the game, and Cult. I'm a big fan of Cult. So it's like horror and dystopian. It has a very vintage 80s feel into it. It has a very nice black and white aesthetic with a very big emphasis on texture. And I think that what I really like about the setting is how it delves with all the existential aspects and how it makes the characters always confront a dilemma between having to follow orders or following what they know it is right, and at the same time trying to find what is going on behind Neurocity. I think that's very interesting that the setting comes with a number of options of what is Neurocity itself. So maybe I could be invited to a game session of Neurocity and I wouldn't know what is Neurocity itself, because maybe the game master decided Neurocity is the dream of a
Something else.
machine, or maybe a spaceship, or maybe hell. It can be anything. So finding out that and trying to escape or trying to bring down that government is part of what is the game about. And it has a very simple system to that and a very interesting stress mechanic that works very well in a dystopian system where you are constantly being pushed to effort and to strive for functionality and excellence. I'm very proud of the writing in that book. I think it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a very nice hardcover with thick uncoated pages and a pink ribbon. It's going to be a really nice product. Yeah. Looking forward to it. It's going to be ready in Exalted Funeral in about 2 months. And I'm still taking pre-buys if anyone is interested.
Yeah, we're gonna put links in the show notes for you to pre-order Neurocity and Gabriel's other work, which are great, and it's something I wanted to talk about. Your work, besides being great games and having all these tools to make them your own, as you're saying, like Neurocity, every time you can play like with different people, would be a different game, and that makes the people playing it's part of the creation of the game, which is it's a fantastic way to do game design and really empowers them and make the games playable for the referee too, because every time he will play, he can make something different. I think that's a great way to make a game.
It's a game that always delivers a memorable experience, but it's a very strong experience. It's not a game to play casually. I think that it requires a lot of commitment from the part of the players and from the GM. Not
you
so
have to
much.
Think, right? It's not like hack and slash, you just kill stuff, right?
Yeah, not so much preparation, because the game itself comes with a lot of, it works like a random generator or a flop generator, and I like to deliver an overflow of ideas of what could go on or what could happen. So by the end, when you finish reading the book, it's like you have so many ideas that you can, I like to improvise a lot as a GM. So that's the way I deliver my books. But it will, at the same time, it needs all the players and the GM to really be fully committed to that experience that's very different.
Hello Weirdos, this is Diogo Nogueira and I'm back with a word from our sponsors. Me! I just released a new game called Cosmosaurus, in which you play a dinosaur space ranger who protects the galaxy from evil threats such as slime bankers, undead pirates, and Cosmosaurus from a void dimension. It's a game with a runes-light system inspired by Forged in the Dark and Lasers and Feelings. It comes with a bunch of tables for you to generate content for it. If you know my games, they're really easy to play and they have tools to help you improvise and play with low prep. It's an ideal game for one-shots, short campaigns, and introducing new people to the hobby, and it's a really perfect family game. I play with my kids all the time. It's a game inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. It's really well illustrated by Lucas Kowalski from Poland, and with a great layout by Guilherme Gontijo. It's a really fun game. You should check it out on DriveThruRPG, itch.io, or exclusively in print on exaltedfuneral.com. I have many other games there, check them out. All the links are in the show notes, so click there. And let's get back to Weird with our chat. Yeah, and something else I was gonna say is that they have this very unique artistic identity. They're very focused on art, they're very well laid out, they have great illustrations. And what I wanted to talk to you is how do you arrive on that? Are you an artist too? Are you a graphic designer? Do you have illustrators you work with? How what is your history with games and art, and how did you arrive and make such beautiful games, books, you know?
Well, thank you, Diego, for saying that beautifully. It means a lot to me coming from you. Thank you. I'm truly honored. Um, yeah, as I said, I'm a consumer of everything. I love art in all its forms. I like painting. I like music. I used to be a musician. I produced about 5 records on independent labels in Buenos Aires. So yeah, to me, it's like if when you produce something, the more media and the more angles you tackle that concept, it's going to adapt. So if you're going to play a Neurocity session and you put the playlist that's on Spotify, it will adapt and it will enhance that experience. And the same goes with the artwork. If the artwork is proper and it definitely nails what I'm trying to convey as an experience, as a gameplay experience, that is going to create a very powerful emotion. So it's fundamental. So a great part of my creation process goes in searching for inspiration for that and of nailing the aesthetics for that. It's like 50% of my work to do that. There's a lot of work going on that. I love it. I love that part of my work. It's what it's not really work for me. It's like what I love doing. That part of the creative process.
Very cool. And
The lousy
are
the lousy
you
part is doing numbers and working on yeah
but
on
have you
deliveries.
studied art or something, or it just like the passion? How you like you studied all these creators? Have you built it to it, or have you like uh studied or read about it, or do you like buy
I
design books or
I
make courses or?
I went through 5 different careers until I noticed that I wouldn't be able to finish anything. So I started many things, but I did not end up in any of them. I am pretty much self-taught in every aspect. Yeah.
Nice. Do you mention being a musician too? And were all your careers art related, or like both more recent? And I wanted to learn more about your music, like what kind of music it was. Uh, is it available anywhere? Like, can we look for Gabriel Quiroga on Spotify and find your music,
Hmm.
or?
Yeah. My artist name, my musician name was Bishop in honor of the alien android. So you can find it in Bishop Bandcamp. One of my first albums was called La Era del Gran Ordenador. That basically translates to the age of the great computer, and that was the origin behind the supercomputer in Neurocity, Isaac. So
Mm,
that whole album is pretty much based on Neurocity, but I did not know it was Neurocity at that time. But I knew it was a big overpowering computer that controlled a city and how the citizens had to deal with that. And yeah, I play with synthesizers, keyboards, drum machines. Yeah, most of the stuff I did was analog.
very nice, cool. Uh, sorry. Uh, Gabriel, what would you say was the weirdest game you ever played?
Oh,
It can be RPGs, it can be video games, it can be board games, or like just play.
yeah. I think one of the most interesting experiences was with a Cult, the RPG. Yeah, for reading it and playing it. I have only played it once, to be honest. It's also a game that
And
demands a lot of commitment and a
yeah,
lot of work.
what was your favorite weird part of it? Like your favorite weird, I don't know, memory of playing Code?
I think that my favorite part was the way that reality started to dilute and how the GM work it out in a transition, and in the end we ended up in a sort of like hell within our own reality. I think there's they call it Metropolis in Code. It was a life-changing experience for me. I loved it a lot.
Nice.
I liked it a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I think I like also how it switches from metaphysical to horror. I think that metaphysical horror is one of the best kinds of horror. It's very difficult to do it, but if you manage to do it, it's great. It sticks with you. Horror RPGs are very difficult to do. For example, with Call of Cthulhu, I think that the main difficulty is that everybody knows what are the primordials, and trying to surprise the players is difficult if they are already familiar with the setting. So, and horror demands that you do not know what is exactly the adversity. So it's very difficult to nail it.
Yeah. Or demands you being comfortable with not knowing what's going on, and players sometimes have very difficult to not knowing what's going on. They have to, they want to see a clear path sometimes, right? And they get sometimes paralyzed to, we're not sure, so we don't do anything, and that's why sometimes people say those when a guy enters the room with a gun, you know, sometimes just to, I don't know, force them to do something. Do you use this kind of techniques, or do you have any kind of way to help players just keep going?
Yeah. It's difficult to take them out from the comfort zone, and I think that it's very difficult to achieve. It's very difficult to achieve if you. It's very difficult also to provide antagonists that are original, are different, and are pretty much unknown for most RPG players, that they pretty much know everything.
Seen it all, right? Seen it all. Gabriel, one of the last questions I will ask about gaming, and then we'll start getting into more metaphysical and personal stuff, is what would you say it's your favorite weird part of your work, of doing what you do?
My favorite what? Sorry, Diego?
Your favorite weird part of your work, like the games you made, or the creative arts that you do.
My
like
favorite
this aspect of my games, or how I explore these themes, or I don't know, how I use this kind of mechanic, or how you said about how you make Neurocity unique every time people play. That's something, but
maybe it's not something that is unique to what I do. I think that what is very interesting to most indie authors is that we are starting to realize that RPG games are an art form on their own. So I think that is a bit to what eventually happened to comic books. They started being something for kids and something very light, and in the end we have stuff from like Neil Gaiman or Alan Moore, great authors that provided an impulse to the industry that allowed the public to realize that that art form is also very valid. So I think that that's very important to be conscious about as an author, and also as a consumer and as a reader. And I think that we should all try to strive for that, to deliver valid adult stuff, things that really move you, things that are maybe an experience that you can discuss with somebody else, and it goes beyond mere light entertainment. Hope I could be as
I mean, I think I see that a lot. I mean, I think it's seeing uh, games and an art form and a way to express ideas, express yourself, and reflect a little bit about yourself and the world, like explore uh, personal stuff and I don't know, stuff that's important to the creators, I guess, and that gives those games meaning in some way. Or I mean, even
absolutely,
if
I
it's
think
hidden, it's not so explicit, but you always infuse it with some of your beliefs. I would say.
absolutely. I think that there is a bit of a misconception of what games really are in our society. To me, games are the most elemental form of learning we have. I think that well, all mammals play games
Yeah,
to learn and to cope with reality and to understand the reality. And so we maybe need to respect them a bit more and to give them the place they have, not just
yeah,
as
for
mere
sure.
forms of entertainment, but something tools for understanding
Yeah,
our ever increasingly complex reality.
yeah. There's a great book I read about game design called Theory of Fun that talks exactly about that, how games are like these learning tools and how important it is for the game designers to be intentional on the stuff they put in there and how even if it's entertainment, no matter what, you're still teaching something. So you have to be intentional what stuff you put in there and how do you take these things through for the reader and for the players in the end.
Mhm.
Very well put.
Yes, absolutely. You need to
Gabriel, now,
give me later
yeah,
that book. I want to read it.
yeah, I'll send you the link and put it on the show notes. I'll take a note here. Theory
Great,
of
thank you.
Fun. Yeah, it's a great book, and it's on Kindle. It's easy to read. It's not like those big game designer books that's really heavy. So excellent
Mhm.
book, and it talks about this how important it's to see game design as art too. When you started talking, it immediately came to my mind.
Awesome.
Gabriel, now getting a little bit personal and metaphysical and talking about experience you might have. Uh, First question is, have you had any like weird experience lately? Anything weird you watched or anything you experienced yourself or read that made you see things a little bit differently or made you curious about something?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, all the time, Diego. For example, well, my folks live in a very old uh, English cottage because the neighborhood where we live is like it was an old all the English people went to that neighborhood and helped build the railways in that part of
Okay.
Buenos Aires. So it's all English cottages and very old houses. And for example, there is a room in my folks' house that is like absolutely super haunted. It has a it's impossible to like sleep there or to be there, and if you go there for like more than 1 hour, you start hearing, listening, or seeing weird shit.
Have you ever seen or heard anything there? Did you stay there or any
Yeah,
personal
yeah,
experience with that place?
yeah. I when I heard like many times nails scratching. Uh, we at first we thought that it was like rats, but then we started to hear the nails scratching like on every part of the wall, and there was nothing. The walls were not hollow, so there was no way that there could be a rat scratching on that part of the wall. And sometimes, yeah, I have seen like ghostly shapes on that particular room, or things that like touch you.
Wow. What do you think that thing is there? Do you have any stories about that place or no?
Yes, I brought well, we brought many times like priests, witches, or whatever. Like almost like 10 people came to there to try to exorcise the room. Um, uh, they couldn't manage to cleanse it completely, but apparently it had to do with some kind of. Apparently, they got together some like a group of priests that practice Satanism, and they did everything in that room.
Mm,
So yeah, so it had to do with that. That was the
I
conclusion
see.
that was corroborated by many different
Yeah,
people that came there, and we didn't told them that, but they most of them spoke about the same thing that was going on there.
yeah, I see. Wow. Any of our parents have any like stories about that place? Did anything happen there or?
No, no, they don't
Okay.
get near that part. It's like closed.
Yeah,
They close it
yeah,
with a
that
key.
was gonna ask. Do you leave it closed? What do you do with that
Yeah,
room? Like it's you just cover
they leave it
the door.
they leave it they leave it closed. I had an uncle that
Okay.
he was very brave. That he said once that, oh, you're all like idiots. I'm going to sleep in that room for a night, and he lasted 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes,
That you could rent it for like atheists and like visiting Argentina. Oh, don't believe in ghosts? So
it
sleep
could
one night
happen. Yeah,
here. Yeah. An Airbnb, a haunted Airbnb. That's a great idea.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a good idea too. Yes, very paranormal. Paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah, for criminal horror, you can be like a module about like a haunted Airbnb and people just visit there. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
Gabriel, have you ever had any experience with altered states of awareness, be it meditation, hypnosis, dreams, or psychedelics? And if you did, can you share a little bit how it was and how it made you see reality in a different
Mhm.
angle, I guess?
Yes, well, I have consumed shrooms, psychedelics, a couple of times in different degrees of uh, potence.
Is
Um,
psilocybin
uh,
or
yes,
something else?
psilocybin. Yes, yeah. It's a big thing in my area. It's like
Yeah.
they pick it up from the fields pretty normally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have consumed it sometimes. My most powerful experience was like a feeling of transcendence, of being part of the usual stuff, of being part of everything, and having a definite perception of some kind of intelligent, overpowering being that made sense of everything, and it was very calm and very lovingly, and I felt that I was part of it. It actually helped me a lot with many things. For example, it completely erased my fear of death.
Wow.
Yeah, before that it was like, okay, what's going to happen when I die? Okay, maybe it's like absolute vacuum, and that vacuum causes some anxiety because we don't know.
Yeah.
But that particular experience like faded away my fear of death entirely. uh, I think it was a very positive thing for me.
Wow.
It
That's
changes a
great.
lot.
Yeah, for sure. I've taken mushrooms for anxiety and I have taken like large doses like this and I've had this experience to see myself in others and like see like how we're all connected, part of this, I don't know, consciousness as you said, like this bigger
Mhm.
thing and although I'm an atheist, I like to think this like we are part of how the universe experiences itself, like we are consciousness and like everything is molecules, but like this our molecules know they're molecules, and that's like fucking weird how can that happen? And like this bottle is like basically the same molecules, but it doesn't know it's a bottle. It's
Yeah,
things like this.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
have, many of my friends also takes ayahuasca sometimes, but I have never taken
ayahuasca.
ayahuasca
Yeah,
personally. Yeah.
yeah. I'm
And
planning to do that someday. I have to find a friend to go with me. We have like this original people tribe hereby in another city, and they receive people to like do these treatments and stuff. And that's something I would like to try. And I have a friend at work that goes there like all the time, and sounds very interesting. Have you ever
I
wanted
would
to
like to
try
do.
that?
I maybe eventually I would like to try it, but the thing is that it's like you take it, and the week after that it's like you're a bit drowsy, and that might
Yeah,
affect my work. And maybe I'm too concentrated on something to do that.
yeah,
So
maybe.
at the moment, for this year, I have only taken some microdosing of psilocybin.
Yeah,
I think it's a very good creative and productivity boost in every way. Even for a mood, it helps your mood.
yeah. It
So I
helps
super
you
recommend it.
settle down. I think at least for me it helps me, because sometimes with anxiety we're all up in your head and you're not even feeling your body. And cannabis and psilocybin helps you, just settle down. Like you land and you feel your body again, and you start to breathe slowly, and you feel alive. I don't know, more get out of your head. At least for me, that's what really helps me
No,
with
yes,
this
yes.
stuff.
Everybody I know that has taken it, it has been a positive experience, and it also helps you
Yeah,
relax, as we said. I think that Rick Rubin, the music producer, spoke a lot about that, about the way that you tackle a problem. Your preconception about that problem uh, will condition the way you solve that problem. So if you work with things just in a very relaxed way and not make such a big deal about everything, it helps a lot to resolve things much quicker, much easily, and much more effectively.
yeah. It's I'm reading this book called The Stillness, and it's all about that, like keeping your shit and then being able to see what the hell is going on and making like decisions without being, oh, I have to do this and that, and always have your mind divided. I think that's, and those things help, but it's something you have to train, I guess. Gabriel, but
Yeah,
what
of
about
course.
like, do you have dreams? Do you dream a lot, and do those help you in creating things? I mean, I've I always regret that I don't remember my dreams, and I know some creators use those a lot in their work. So I'm curious, do you remember your dreams? They're like make sense to you in some way for you to get inspired
I, I
and structure
personally,
yourself?
I dream very little. And I remember what I dream, but I usually don't dream much. I daydream a lot. I think
Oh
that
yeah,
everything's happening when I'm awake.
that's yeah. I joke that I don't dream at night because I spend all my dream energy like daydreaming. So when I get
Yeah,
to sleep, and like, oh, I'm out of dreams because you've spent all your dreams
yes, I
daydreaming all
think
day
that
long. So
that is also my case. Absolutely.
yeah, okay. And well, we already talked about ghosts a little bit, so I'm gonna tell. Do you believe in ghosts particularly? Like, if I had experience too, but I'm kind of static. But like, do you believe ghosts actually exist and people can see them or like experience them in some way or contact them
Um,
somehow?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that, of course, I think that there are entities that exist, intelligent or non, that inhabit other spaces, other liminal spaces next to us, and sometimes we can get in contact with them. Some of them are good, some of them are neutral, and some of them are just bad. But I think
But
that a big part of coming into contact with them is having the sensibility or the sensitivity to do that. And I still think that fear is a big factor on the subjectivity, on the way you come into experience with that.
So, but do you believe these entities are actually ghosts, like they're spirits of the deceased, or do you think they're like other different entities, other different spirits?
It's like a zoo. You have everything.
Oh, okay.
Some of them are
What
ghosts. Some other are
what else?
otherworldly beings from other
Oh, okay.
dimensions. So yeah, absolutely. I believe in
Yeah,
everything.
like the next session would be aliens. Like, do you believe in aliens? They can be creatures from another dimensions. And have you ever
Uh,
seen an alien or a UFO?
no, I have seen maybe weird lights in the sky, but I think that UFOs or aliens, I tend to agree with the idea that it's more likely that they are entities from another dimension than beings from another planet. That's my take on that. But
Okay.
I wouldn't certify any of it.
Oh yeah, of
It's
course.
just
But
like
I'm interested.
my
Yeah.
opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing your opinion, like see what you think, like to have any theories. Like, do you?
Mhm.
I know you do a lot of research. Do you do research of these beings from other dimensions? I remember when I was a teenager, I had this teacher from comics class, and he was all about like aliens. So we had these magazines with like different kind of aliens. That well, one would like live in the center of the earth, the other would live somewhere else. Like, do you research what kind of these creatures are, or do you just know they are and you don't try to, I don't know.
When I come upon such a specific type of research, when they start describing, okay, this little guy has this height and is green and belongs to the planet Pluton or whatever, I think that I absorb it as something that can be fantasy or science fiction. I like it. It's entertaining for me. It's interesting for me, but there's no way I could validate that. So I just take it as it is, as something that's like fiction, maybe.
Sure.
That could be
Yeah.
possible or not. Of course, there is something that is likely to be true, and there is a lot of bullshit going around.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And Gabriel, what about spirituality or religion? Do you have, or philosophy? Do you have anything that helps you guide in your daily life and in your values or something like this?
I sometimes pray a lot. Uh, I have to say that well, my
Like
family, my whole
in,
family,
in what
my whole
way? Like
family was
how do you pray?
well, my whole family was Catholic and Christian. I do not agree about pretty much anything that comes from the church as an institution. I think they are one of the most evil institutions in the world. But still, I have a sense of of God. As I said, as I told you, I had an experience that was life changing for me. So I believe in the existence of God. So I pray to that God in a very personal way. I think that's very good. There are studies uh, that prove that it's very helpful for your mind to pray. That it delivers some kind of synapses in your brain, and it helps you a lot. That's wonderful stuff for your psyche, no? So I do that. I do that, and I think it's very good to do that.
Nice. Very nice. And do you have any representation for this god? Do you imagine it as an energy? Do you how do you see this god? Or do you see God in like everything? Or how is this god you discovered?
Well, it has a beard, it has a white robe. Just kidding. No, no. For me, it's just a very big consciousness that engulfs the whole of reality. that has an overall positive aspect and is mainly the responsible for this universe we live in. But at the same time, I believe that we are truly and absolutely responsible about everything we do, and we have a free will to fuck everything up.
Yeah, for sure. Like we have to take responsibility for what we do, right? Not blame some energy, right? What about you talk about aliens and conspiracy? Are you interested in conspiracy theories? Like do you read anything like you read about that it kind of fascinates you somehow?
Well, I think that everything, as I said, everything can serve or be useful to provide a spark for a bigger fire.
Yeah.
No? Well,
I mean,
if you...
is there one you like a lot? Is there any particular one like you really like? Or no?
No, I liked all of them. I love them. I love them, but I could never take them too seriously, you know, because the amount of effort of researching and digging some stuff requires is quite difficult. You can spend a life trying to prove an aspect of a conspiracy, and still it will be very, very difficult to deal with that. But for example, we talked about Delta Green. The authors, Dennis Detwiller and Scott Glancy, John Tynes, the guys did a huge. I believe me, there won't be a more profound research on conspiracy than what those guys did, and ever. And they use it to create a work of fiction. So I think that that's very interesting to consider. The book even has a bibliography of the books they use to serve as an inspiration. Bibliography, yes.
Yeah.
And
the books.
So I think that it's very important to know that this stuff are very difficult to prove, but at the same time, I would never allow official institutions to tell me what is the official truth about anything. I like to know my own.
Yeah.
I like to research my own things. So we know there are many examples about the public being lied because of many different reasons.
Yeah.
So we need to be just aware that could happen, and we need to not be naive.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that us being from Latin America, and we grow up with, I don't know if truth or not, but I kind of always felt like truth, like how America, how the United States kind of mingled with elections and politics here. So I always grew up with this conspiracy theory that the United States mingles and mix up and do stuff for our countries and politicians to get some result that's more favorable to them. And that's a conspiracy that, even though I don't want to believe in conspiracies, but it's something that growing up here feels very true to this day. And sometimes it's even proven, like CIA, they have like meetings and recordings, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to let go of this, right?
Well, if you research just a bit of history, for example, I will speak only from my country. Well, we had a dictatorship, and that dictatorship was supported heavily by American interests, and the public did not know
here.
So the public did not know it, and the public today does not know many things. Also, it's just something that is a fact. It's just an undeniable fact that it happens. There are interests and there are secret services working constantly to handle world politics,
Yeah.
and the media is in allegiance to that.
Yeah.
So
Money,
it's
right? Yeah.
yep, it's just like that. And when
Yeah.
we consider our countries, for Argentina, a third world country, and 100% of the politicians are corrupted, extremely corrupted, and extremely immoral, and thieving bastards.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to see that guy in TV and tell me the way things are. It's
Yeah.
just not going to happen. So it just, I was educated uh, uh, into not rely on media and to not rely what
Yeah.
politics tell me.
To be
Because
healthily.
it's just my culture, it's my society. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
I live one block away from the governor that
Yeah.
use all the materials from the government to build his own house. It's like we see the guy, his limo, and everybody knows it, and it's just like something very we see on a less hidden basis. Maybe first world countries
Yeah.
just try to
Yeah.
propose a different screen of things and maybe be a bit more pretend to not be so crooked. Maybe in here is a bit more apparent, more scandalous.
Yeah. I think because we grew up, as you said, with dictatorships, and then the media was controlled, and then everything, they pretended everything was fine, and then there was all this hellfire. So I think we're, at least from Latin America, we have this natural tendency to distrust authority in some way, because that's our
Absolutely.
history. Like,
Well, we see the Falkland Wars, and my father always tells me the Falkland Wars. We saw the media, and it was Argentina is winning, Argentina is winning, Argentina is winning, Argentina is winning. Suddenly, Argentina lost.
yeah, I mean,
It was like that.
yeah, we can't help but to, I don't know, be a little bit suspicious at least. So Gabriel, the last two questions are more like fun and to see like some of your ideas and personality. And the first one would be, if you could have any superpower, what would it be, and what would be like the first thing you would do with it?
One superpower. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that I would love to be able to enter a meditative on a meditative situation at will, or a meditative state at will, and not really a superpower, but I have a very big problem with breathing through my nose. I have always blocked it, and I think that if I could have the superpower of unblock it, it will help me a lot with my relaxation
Oh
and
yeah.
with my breathing exercises. Yeah, so maybe be like some kind of monk that I could enter that with some breathing exercises, just
Control
to control everything of
your,
my mind.
yeah, your metabolic functions perfectly, and breathing and
Yeah,
everything.
and
Yeah, yeah.
go naked into
Immunity
the
to
ice.
allergies. Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
very good
something like
for
that.
sure. And you would be able to experience all the sensations from the cold and the heats and everything that nature has to offer, and that's very, yeah, very zen.
Yeah, of course.
Very linked with the mushroom trip and being connected to everything. Very nice. And
Yeah, and acquire a
one other,
transcendence, maybe like at will. That's I think
yeah,
that's very neat.
true. Another thing is, if you could take any weird thing or any fantastical, fictional thing, and make it real in our world, what would it be and why? It can be like sorcery, monsters, or anything, like any kind of folklore, mythology, or
Uh-huh.
magic item.
Well, I like leprechauns, for example. Leprechauns. They could be funny. Yeah, maybe leprechauns. Uh, I know that in Patagonia we have some folk about leprechauns. I think they are cute and they are funny. They have their own gold and they provide some answers to some questions. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that could be useful if you could find one. That could be
It's a
really
weird
fantastic.
question,
Yeah,
to be honest, Joe.
yeah,
So I could say anything.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's the point. I mean, I want to see what these amazing, creative
Yeah,
people that I got to know when they answer. So I have,
yeah.
I don't know, I have this little glimpse of their impromptu creativity or
I
something that's in their mind. I know. I think it's fun to see
I
where
I also
people
love
take this unexpected.
yeah, I also love dragons a lot. So dragons will be also a plus.
Yeah. They can be a little bit more catastrophic than leprechauns, I would think, but yeah, they look
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
a lot more. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Dragonlance setting. Yeah, it's a beautiful setting. I think that I'm such a fan of dragons that I have never had the courage to include them in my settings.
Oh, yeah. I love how Dark Sun makes it the dragon. I like
Yes.
this make them like no,
Yeah,
oh, it's
Dark
a red
Sun.
dragon here, red dragon there. I love how to make dragons like unique. How DCC does it. It's a really great way to do
No,
it too.
what I love about Dark Sun is how the sorcerers end up
Oh yeah,
becoming or transforming into dragons. I think that
yes,
idea
yes,
was awesome, and to have
yeah,
half dragon kings and all that. That's Dark Sun is one of my favorite settings ever.
yeah. Me too.
It's a big inspiration
So
behind Warplane.
yeah, I mean, solar blades. The initial concept was, oh, I want to make Dark Sun in space. That's it. Solar blades and cosmic stuff. So Gabriel, we got here to the end. I want to ask you: is there anything you want to say to our weirdos who listen to this podcast? Any weird message you want to send out, and where to find you on social media?
No. My only message is that it's super cool that you are listening to us, that you're supporting independent authors. I think that that's where the gold is. The Leprechaun gold is there
Yeah,
in the indie scene,
for
in
sure.
every aspect of art,
Yeah,
in music, in
yeah,
cinema, RPGs, books, and everything. I think that they always deliver a worthwhile experience. And you can join my Facebook group in Worlds of Quiroga. And you can also add me in my personal social media. I use my social media, my private social media. And also the pre-launch for my new Kickstarter called Sigil, the Mirror Reality. Is going to be a card game set in the Hell Night universe. It's going to be super cool. It's a great game. I super recommend it. So if you want to follow that project, I think that you will be glad you back it.
yeah. So you please provide us with those links. I'll put in the show
Of
notes.
course.
And most of our games can be found on Exalted Funeral too, right?
Yes, Warplane and Hell Night can be found in Exalted Funeral, and you can also find my print-on-demand versions of those books in Drive-Thru RPG. Though I super recommend you get the hardbacks,
Oh yeah,
the offset
it's
versions.
so yeah. Well, I have Warplane here, and then the texture of the paper, the way the cover feel, it's kind of softy and somehow it feels great to the touch. You probably want. I have both the POD version, which right here, and here is like the printed
Also the
one.
very
It's
best.
so good.
I
Yeah,
It's called a soft touch cover, I think.
yeah.
But I don't know how you manage to buy so many books. You must have like a library of RPGs, because you have everything. You might have the biggest collection in the community.
Well, I think I have a problem, but I really like my problem, So I have books on the floor here, and we're building other shelves because and I have to sell some of these books. I have too many DCC core books.
I
So I'll
I
sell
remember
some of them.
I bought Mothership from you.
Yes, yes. Though, yeah, I got multiple copies because it was cheaper on shipping, and I bet someone would probably buy it because it's a great game. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, Gabriel, thank you so much for being here. It was a great talk. I've loving connecting to you. I really admire your work. Admire how you think about everything and make these games very unique. And you combine, music with art, with writing, with game design, and make it weird and make it wonderful. And share your process, share a little bit about your life, like the barbecues you do, and let the public who consumes your game get to know a little bit better, and through that know your games a little bit better too. So thank you so much for being here, and everybody who's listen to it, all the weirdos, please go check Gabriel's work, see his new Kickstarter, and keep it weird, everybody. Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.